you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Acknowledge me.
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
We are bad to the bone. Get it? Bad to the bone.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I'll fight anybody who do you want. Just let me fight him.
Let me tell you something, Jim Ross.
Mega power, yeah.
We got it for you.
We are the best of the best.
Woo! Wheeling dealing. Smart marks.
And that's the bottom line, cause Stone Cold said so.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Talk 'em Into the Building. Here with Adelaide, here with Adrian. How you guys doing this week?
I'm doing great. Loving it. Looking forward to tonight. I'm really excited, actually.
Yeah, man. I'm with it. Hope y'all had a wonderful week. And I'm ready to rock and roll, man. Let's get it.
Nice. Yeah, we're going to have some fun. This week's theme, I kind of just jump right into it. It's something that we've seen a few comments about. Hey, when are you going to do something that's not AEW? When are you going to do something that's not GCW, not WWE? It was always about, when are you going to do something about an indie wrestler? It's like, all right, you know what? Let's do it this week. Let's jump in to some of our local workers, our local talent that hopefully one day make it big. But let's talk about it today before they were stars. All right, so before we jump right into the videos, before we jump into what promos did we bring, I'm going to come to each of y'all individually and ask you a question. So, Adelaide, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about an indie promo, when you think about that local wrestler that you may see on Facebook or on Instagram, TikTok? What's the first thing you think about when you think about an independent wrestler promo?
You know, I understand going in that it's not going to be as seasoned, right? We're not talking about someone who has years of experience, but likely someone who's almost seeking to emulate or distance themselves from a typical promo, right? You have the typical yelling promo of the 80s, you know, you have the more, you know, nuanced promos today where they might, try to figure out what's real or what's not. But for me, it's just that passion, right? Regardless if it's crisp or not, it's like that passion is going to come through that screen, your phone or your giant TV, you know, on a muted bar TV. But if I can see that physically, if I can see that in a way that draws me in and wants me to hear more, that's really what I think about an indie promo. I'm not looking for polish. I'm looking to see, you know, that there's some conviction there that you're on your way to head there. But to be honest, though, it's interesting because a lot of times when I say indie promos is there hasn't been coaching there, and just coming at from a coaching perspective, I love to see that development where if I'm following a local wrestler and I know they're working at that craft, it's really fun to see someone who's, you know, even putting promos out online, whether it's on social media or what have you, and seeing that progression month to month, year to year, because that's how you see, you know, to borrow that term, the cream rise to the top, and you're seeing them on national TV down the line.
Nice. Adrian, what's the first thing that pops to your mind?
Definitely. In a lot of cases, someone unpolished, but like Adelaide said, very passionate. It's a level of dedication unlike others. To say, hey, I'm going to show up to do this independent wrestling show for little to nothing, like, let's be honest, and just for the glory in a lot of these guys. So that level of passion can be very enduring and win me over right away. But another element that I do enjoy sometimes is when you do bring in that somewhat established talent. At one point they were established, when you bring them to the independents and you let one of the young guys go after them. So it's just that clash of, you made it, but I want your spot type energy. And I enjoy that.
Interesting. I think we're coming at this from all different perspectives, because when I first think of an indie promo, that my pet peeves jump up, man. All the little things, and MJF hit it perfectly. He did a promo that about a year ago or so, maybe a little longer, where he's like, it's the traditional indie promo, and it's the guys doing it in their car. It's the guys doing it. I've seen one, and he's local here in Georgia, and I don't think he's active now. He was a manager, and he used to drive me crazy. His promo wasn't bad, but he had a WWE title behind him. I'm like, bro, like, come on, man, you can't do that. And or they don't pay attention to their surroundings, and it's like, come on, it's these little things that start to stand out to me, and it's like, are you paying attention to what's happening around you? And then, I think you hit it. The coaching. A lot of these guys are, they're trained. They went to their schools or whatever. But I'm not sure how many different schools teach you how to do promos.
Mhm.
And like you said, you have the '80s styles. You have today, which is a little bit more conversational with certain guys, or you have the I need to be ha ha, just little things like that. And it's like, and Adrian, you kind of brought up the guy who may have made it, and now he's coming back down. How does that person, that independent, address him? Does he talk about him being older? Does he talk about him being a has been? Because there's a psychology to a promo that a lot of independent guys don't think about.
Right.
When they talk about, oh, you're a has been, oh, you were there and you made it. Now you're old, and then you get into a match and this dude beats you. You just made yourself look worse.
Right.
You just
Yeah.
and it's like all these little things that because I think I've told you guys before. I know some guys who run promotions, and I know some guys who
Mhm.
do different things, and it's like some of their frustrations when they can't get guys to cut promos, or
Yeah.
if they do, they're like, do I use this? So it's interesting though. There's some talent out there. Let's don't get it twisted. I mean,
Definitely.
guys like Austin Theory. If you even go back and look at some of his old promos here in the Georgia area, they were good. He could always talk. You go back and look at some other guys. Even Xavier Woods could talk back in the day.
Yeah. No, it just makes me think, like, you talk about how, it's almost like everybody reverts to what they think is going to get across the screen, right?
Mhm.
And it's oftentimes when someone's given the leash, even in a coaching setting, like you make a big point, which is like, if you're looking at a modern wrestling school, and in their sales pitch they're not including a promo, or they're not including something to develop to character development, that probably isn't the right place. Because let's be real, everybody can wrestle, right? Everybody can, put on a headlock, but what's going to sell money is like, okay, who are you as this character, as this extension of
Right.
yourself? And you see NXT, now, obviously they're like in a decade of the modern take on NXT, and how they revamped that, and how much power and how much they've invested in the promo, in character development, just as much, if not more, than the wrestling itself, right? So it's interesting you mentioned that, because I noticed that local wrestlers here, which, you know it's LA, we're side of town that I am, and people come here with hopes and dreams, and the pro wrestling side is no different, right? And if you don't have the right coaching, if you don't have someone to extract the right qualities, we always talk about Heyman, being able to disguise the wrestlers, right? Because some of them couldn't do certain things and really embrace that character. I look at company at training out here like Santino Brothers, which has produced Brody King, like Brian Kendrick has done work there, and just tons of wrestlers, and their piece is rooted in promos, because they know where these guys want to be, these guys and gals. So um yeah, it's so interesting when we think about it, to Adrian's point, where this is their lives, and they're giving it up. So why not invest in a more deliberate way in what they're doing?
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so Adrian, I'm gonna pass it to you and let you bring your first promo. Go ahead and set that up, and
Okay.
let's see what you got.
All right. Well, I kind of cheated, man. I'm gonna give you guys a 2-for-1. How about that?
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay. First promo is from a gentleman that we're all somewhat familiar with now on the big stage. He's made it officially with WWE. But like Greg has said in previous podcast episodes, we're blessed and fortunate to live in Atlanta, Georgia, where some great independent wrestling promotions. And one promotion in particular, I definitely want to shout out, because this is one of my who's grown to become one of my good friends. Mucha Lucha Atlanta, ran by Brother Ricardo, takes care of business. He brings in some great talent, but he does a hell of a job pairing those established names, those guys that you see regularly on AEW at one point or another, Ring of Honor at another point, but he pairs them with up and coming guys that are very talented in Atlanta. And through one of those shows, one young guy from Atlanta, he really stood out. He was young. You could tell that he was young. He sounded like a kid, but he looked physically fit. He looked well, but you could tell that he was a kid and still learning. But you could see the potential. And I think we are seeing some great things from him at the highest stage. So to offset that, I can show you guys a very interesting promo featuring a one Mr. Austin Theory.
I was just in the fight of my life against Joey Lynch.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that haircut.
But this ain't the last of Austin Theory.
Man.
Because I'm a theory, and that means I'm unproven. And no matter what, I can always get better. And that man out there showed me that I can just do that. So Joey Lynch, this isn't the last you've seen of Austin Theory, because Theory's coming.
Oh. So he's always had that name too. Interesting.
He did. But you can tell, like I said, you could tell that he was younger.
Yeah.
You could, but when we're talking on the promo end, not just talking about his performance, because in the ring he was like that.
Yeah.
You could tell that this was a kid. As soon as WWE gets their hands on him, he's gonna do his thing, right? But on the promo end, and I'll pass this over to y'all more so for the reaction, but my impression was that he was still not quite comfortable. You could see he was thinking in his head what he wanted to say, but there was hesitation. There wasn't that level of conviction that was like, oh, this guy he's him, like that sort of thing. It wasn't that confidence. Compare that to what we see now on WWE programming. Like that, just to me, that kind of speaks volumes to the whole process of the WWE PC. Like they bring it out of you. He has it. He has the beginnings of it, but like that's day and night comparing the two, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that jumped out at me is that you kind of talked about the confidence, right? He had elements of what he wanted to say.
Definitely.
Like the whole piece of I'm a theory, which means I'm not done.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, that was nice.
That was good.
I wish it was delivered different.
That's a bar,
but
exactly,
it was
right?
tight. And it was just like that. You could see those nuggets there, man. It's like, oh man, that right there. Like when he said that, I'm like, why didn't he use that now? Like it was that good. Like the statement was good. But like you said, and then it felt rushed at the end. It was that type of thing that you see it now. It's take your time. It's you got a certain amount of time. And kind of jumping back to that coaching thing, right? I know of people who've been trained and they were taught 45 seconds, 1 minute, 1 minute and 30. And I'm kind of curious to know if in that case right there, did he have a time frame? Did he not have a time frame or whatever?
That's a good point because again, that was post match. So I will give him that awful haircut he had was not by design. He was fresh off of match against Joey Lynch. And I was there at that match. And one thing they do is they'll do the post match promo and they try to squeeze it. They try to squeeze it to that 35 to 45 second range. So that is a great point. Adelie, what are your thoughts on that promo?
So the whole time I'm watching it, I'm just looking at his facials because nowadays he's a cartoon character. I mean, if you look at an action figure, the pose they chose, it's him like holding his wide mouth and it's the most cartoonish thing. You look at this promo, his eyes never move. His eyes, his you know, his eyebrows are static. His eyes are just looking directly at the screen. His mouth has a little more animation, but there isn't that sense of like, hey, let me stand in front of the mirror and work this character out. And I know that's oftentimes something that I've heard from from different coaches. I think Regal even might have mentioned something like that. Like, practice your promos in front of the mirror so that you can see exactly what the screen is going to see, and that's not there yet. But again, the conviction is there because I can see this scrawny kid right now, but there's some potential. Obviously, you see him wrestle back then, and obviously it's undeniable. But it really stands out to me how much he's come in terms of recognizing how to emote just through facials, and it's really incredible.
That's a really good point. Just to piggyback off of that, or with a question rather, Ali, is there a wrestler that you can say emotes the best when it comes to cutting a promo? Like someone whose fa- facial reactions you're just locked in based on their
Yeah.
reactions.
So I'm gonna give you a twofer. I'm gonna throw one back, an old school
Okay.
one, and I'm gonna give you a modern one. Old school, I guess, not that long ago. Foley, Mick
Okay.
Foley.
Okay.
Mick Foley had to work through that mask as Mankind, right? And started off as this very serious, woe is me, the world is against me, you know, this beast, like Hunchback almost of Notre Dame, and
Mm,
then develops into this comedy character that has to do physical actions, and the Rock and Sock connection. So to me, Foley is a master of taking your character, whether it was Dude Love, Mankind, whether it's himself as a commissioner,
mm,
and using this physicality sometimes to violent ends, right? But also to comedic ends and to nuance ends, and really make me invested in what he's going to do next, right? From a
mm.
promo standpoint. If I had to go with a modern take on a kind of a pro wrestler. It's a twofer. I'm a big Danhausen guy, so but he has his own niche more specifically
Right.
because he has a lot going on, and he very very well knows his character. Because if you take off that makeup, honestly, he blends into a crowd.
Yeah.
You will not know
Yeah.
who this guy is.
Right.
And Adrian, actually, you sent me a picture like, do you recognize who he is? And
Right.
because I'm a huge fan. I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's Danhausen. It's him with his wife with no makeup on.
Mm-hmm.
But once he straps on the paint, this guy is incredible because, again, to Greg's point, because he's developed this character over YouTube, he's had to work within this box,
Mm.
right? And he's learned to emote. He's developed. It's interesting because that character started off so a throwback kind of evil, kind of like, and he introduced the comedy aspect, and I mean it's brilliant. It's brilliant what he does. So for me, that would be more of the kind of the modern take of knowing how your promo is, and
Mm-hmm.
also, sorry, to Greg's point, the 45-second promo versus, hey, you got 20 seconds. Hey, we're going to give you 5 minutes out there, and knowing what to do with it. I don't think he's a 5 minute guy, but
Mm-hmm.
I think he knows this character really well.
What about you, Greg? Who do you have?
From a facial perspective,
Mm-hmm.
um, as you were saying that, I was trying to think of different people, but the one I just settled on is The Miz.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, yeah.
Because he
mm-hmm,
reacts to everything somebody's saying, whether he's
Mm-hmm.
interviewing him on Miz TV and he's not really involved,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's somebody he's cutting the promo on, he has facials that mean something.
Mm.
And a lot of times, um, the way he looks, like the thing about what you mentioned, Austin Theory looking directly at the camera the whole time. Whereas if you watch Miz, he doesn't.
He
And a
works the
lot of those
room.
guys don't look at the camera until it's time to look at that camera.
Mm.
yeah,
And but Miz has those facials. Some of the greatest facials were always Regal,
yeah,
That's true.
and I mean he
yes.
he could react to anything. Um, and it was just like, man, and there were comedy sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it was
Mhm.
just like smugness. Um, but it was never all the body language, like all that, I have to jump up and down type of thing. It was just that in
Right.
that face was right there.
That's a good one.
And I love your call out from Foley because doing that through the mask is
Mm.
very difficult, and I think he did a great job with that. But the other one that jumped out at me, and I just want to go back old school, thinking about promos and the facial, pre-Sting, pre-Crow,
Mm,
Surfer
yeah.
Sting.
Mm.
Never a polished promo, but his facials and his excitement came through,
Yeah.
which grabbed us, which grabbed the kids, which grabbed all of us and made us fans of Surfer Sting when we didn't really need to be fans of that character, right? But it was kind of like he grabbed you because of he did sell it. He sold whatever he was talking about through his facials.
If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and of course, look us up on socials at Suplex Dinner Club. And be sure to check out our other projects. We talk college football on Dogs versus All Y'all. That's a weekly college football podcast where we don't just talk about the Georgia Bulldogs, we talk about all things college football. The Life and Times pod, which is short for the Life and Times of a Restaurant Lifer podcast, where I have some chill conversations with some cool and interesting people that I've met in my years in the hospitality industry. And of course, check out Talk 'em in the Building. That's a pro wrestling podcast where we solely focus on the promo. We talk about the talkers, we hype the hype man, and we pontificate on the promo. It's a fun project, and if you're a pro wrestling fan, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. If you're into TV and movie reviews, check out Four Corners Cinema with Ari and Adrian, a podcast where two lifelong pro wrestling fans review film and other forms of media that just so happen to have some of our favorite pro wrestlers. The Suplex Dinner Club family is growing, and I would love for you to be a part of it. I like that. Yeah, I like
Very
that.
cool.
Okay. My second one, I got to shout out some of our other homies, Southern States Pro. It's managed by Uncle Uno, Murda One, as well as brother Josh. They themselves have had some mix-ups of former established talent, upcoming talent. You can see them grinding, man, from their days of being Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment, which is how I met those guys, all the way to now where they're a little bit more family friendly. They're trying to branch out. So if you're in Atlanta, try to support these promotions. Sorry for the commercial, guys, but I gotta shout my guys out. So my next promo is going to be from friend of the podcast, Murda One, and he's calling. This is through his phone, but it's quality because he's always talking his talk.
December 27th. Owen, it's your time to dance. But before we go into all the finer details of what we got to do on December 27th, show of the year, I just want to say this, Owen. Under any other circumstance, I would have had nothing but love for you. You're young. You talk a lot of shit. You get the job done. But Owen, there's one thing you gotta realize. There's already a Murda One. So anything you do is plagiarism. Now I understand you're trying to be a man and all. You try to stand up for your girl. But dude, look at it from where I see it. Your girl stepped in the line of fire. So if you was any kind of man, you would have had your bitch on check. But instead, her check engine light came on and she collapsed to the ground. Kudos, Owen, boyfriend of the year. It was a good segue for show of the year. Where Owen Knight, you will be just like another Owen and you will die.
Dang! Oh my gosh.
Let me preface that with Murda One don't give two shits about what he says.
Zero.
The plagiarism line is a bar.
Right. All right, so Ali, it's your first time interacting with Murda One, possibly.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that promo?
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say like he practiced it, but I can see where his thought process is like, all right, A, B, C type deal, because it's almost segmented, right? Into 3 points. It's like the setup, I am, you can't replace me, to here's the pitch, and then the real knockout parts with the Owen line and referring to his girl. So for me, I look at structure first for some reason. That's just the way my brain
That's the
thinks.
teacher in you, bro.
That's a teacher in me. I'm sorry. I gotta see an opening paragraph. I gotta see supporting evidence, and it's well constructed because every point has a through line and is connected and paid off from the very beginning. To Greg's point, he doesn't care, right? So all us reacting, or at least me guffawing over here, it's within the realm of what he set up from the character. And if you're not paying attention, that's on you, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what stands out to me because the character is well constructed and it is what it is.
Absolutely. And before I shoot it over to you, Greg, Adelie, do you know who was the girl in the promo?
No, I'm curious now. Yeah.
AEW's own Kiera Hogan. So
no,
this shows what
that's
those guys
wild,
were doing.
bro.
Yeah, like I said, the Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment, Southern States Pro, bless you, they're pushing up new talent, and I mean, it was always one of my favorite shows to go to. Greg, what are your thoughts, man?
Well, first off, before I get into to Murda One part, because that's a fun conversation right there. But what's the main purpose of the promo? That's
talk
my
him
question.
In the building.
Talk him into the building.
Mm-hmm.
So what building you going to talk him into? What did he do? He told you the date.
The show.
He told you it's the show of the year. He reminded you the date. He reminded you it's the show of the year because he's a veteran and he knows exactly what he's doing. He knew, I think that was from like 2015, but he's been around forever. He knew what he's doing. I got to tell you where we're going to be. I mean, at that time they ran the same place on a regular, so he didn't have to say exactly where they're going to be, but he told you the date, show of the year, again the date, again tied in the show of the year, and at the end did it again. Because at the end of the day, I got to get you there. So there's that. That's the difference. You see that contrast between earlier. Granted, Austin wasn't necessarily trying to talk you into the building at that moment, but he didn't recap. He didn't kind of give you these little nuggets. Murder did.
Right.
That's the veteran in him, right?
Mm-hmm.
To your point, Adelie, he had a structure. He knew what he's doing. He's telling a story. If you think about a couple of our other episodes, we talked about recapping. What has happened? What did we go through before? That's exactly what he just did. Let me tell you the past. Now let me tell you the present. And now I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in the future. Right. And that's exactly what Murda One just did.
Yep. I enjoyed it. It's just a minute 30, but like you said, he hit on every single important point to talk you in the building. So salute Uno, salute the homie. Those were mine, guys. Sorry for the 2-for-1, but I figured
you're
2 minutes total. It's all good.
I gotta tell you a story about Murda
One. Yeah, he's got some.
So you should have him tell this story one day. But he was wrestling in White County, Georgia. That's important. So that's North Georgia, and this is several years ago. And let's just say he was the minority in the show.
Right.
Him and Corey. So
okay, yeah.
As a tag team, right? He legit went and stole the White County sign and brought it to the show and talked about he gonna turn it into Black County.
Nice.
Dude. You need him to tell this story. They were losing their minds. They were losing their minds, bro. And that's why I say I've known him for years. He's a good dude for sure.
He is.
But it's so funny to think about how far he came, who he learned from. If you don't know, he was trained by New Jack. And so it's just kind of crazy to think about that promo. But yeah, one day we should have him come on here and talk about that promo specifically and how crazy those people were, man. It was nuts. Just crazy.
Yeah. Shout out to him, man. Shout out to him.
For sure. Cool. So those are good ones, man. Those were good. I was wondering, there was a back of my mind that said bring Murder because I was like, I know him, but I'm glad I didn't. Out of lead, who do you got?
Well, I'm gonna stick with known wrestlers and known promotions here. So I'm out of Southern California, and one of the foremost promotions out here, and wrestling schools for that matter, is Santino Brothers Wrestling. out of well, it says southeast Los Angeles, so to speak, is where it's housed. More recent names it developed has been Bateman, who had a run in ROH. Brody King, they actually tagged in that promotion. And then various wrestlers have actually run all smaller schools within that. So one of the wrestlers I'm gonna show is necessarily related to that. He actually did a match for them, but I like to shout out Santino Brothers first. This is a local Southern California wrestler who actually ended up training at the Nightmare Factory. Code Gross Nightmare Factory, but it's very interesting because he had a whole physical transformation, and his character will be. I will introduce him as he introduces himself, which is the protagonist of pro wrestling. I'll give you guys here Kid Bandit.
Nice.
November 27th, Santino Brothers Wrestling finally make its much awaited return in the independent wrestling scene in an event appropriately called Nice Guys Finish. And I, Kid Bandit, a protagonist of professional wrestling, finally stepped inside a Santino Brothers Wrestling ring. I would be celebrating this moment if not for the fact that on the way here, I have been disrespected consistently. I represented our school at the Nightmare Factory, and not once did I get any support from any of you. When I represented our school at the Young Lions Cup, I didn't get a single congratulatory response. When I went on AEW Dark and wrestled at the semi-main event, not a single one of you congratulated me. I snapped when I saw Mongo Santino decide to nominate a referee instead of a wrestler like me for Rookie of the Year. I understand that you guys can't let go of the golden days, of Jake Atlas, of Brody King, of Heather Monroe, but the fact is I am literally at your doorstep right now, doing just as good, if not better, at a much faster pace. That's okay. Come the 27th, I'm going to show you that even though you all see me as undesirable, I'm also ungoddamn
Thoughts, gentlemen? What are you thinking about that, Greg?
So the first thing that jumped out at me is he did something different. The whole part in the beginning, the way they're showing his feet, the way he's kind of dragging the, I don't know what it's called, but the sword thing, right? I mean it's but I mean that grabbed my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's using this little song in the background, not the original.
Right.
Smart,
Right.
very smart, but also a little bit different version, a little bit slowed down version.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that, and I liked his passion. You can see he's trying to be a little bit, get it out there, and he's making good points. If those are, whether they're factual or not, from his perspective, he's making me believe that he believes that that is true. That you've disrespected me. I represented your school basically in Atlanta, Georgia for Nightmare Factory. I represented your school here. I went to Dark. I've done these things, and what do? You nominate a referee. Dude, that right there, that's a good story.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he brought that together, I believe that he believed it. And I think he did a good job with that. Was it all natural? Was it all flow? No, but that's okay. I mean, it's like we're talking about. It's getting there, right? The only thing I didn't like about it, I didn't like him flipping it off at the end. I thought it was a very good quality promo and didn't
I'm
need
with you on
that.
that.
He
I'm with
didn't
you on that.
need. It was very good. The undeniable, all of that, everything he put in there. It seemed to. I don't know what his character was, but it kind of felt like he's a rebel, kind of somebody who's an outcast. He's been an outcast for a while, and you're still out. You're still treating me like an outcast, and that's what I got out of it. I just didn't think that needed to be there. But beyond that, I thought it was nice.
I'll actually push back on you on that. I think that's what put his character over the top as being the rebel. Like he didn't have to do that, but he's doing it just to say, screw you guys.
Right.
Like I get it. I get you don't have to do that, but that kind of also for me, it kind of set a cherry on top of this guy doesn't really care. You know, I could see Santino or whoever's the head of that promotion saying, "Why the hell did he have to do that? He didn't have to do that." You know, that sort of thing. Who's this guy think he is? Like that's the kind of emotions that evokes from it. At least that simple action. My critique of that promo is the fact that he stole the bar from Cody. When you say
at the end,
that's kind of what that was the thing that hit me. That offended me more than the middle finger, to be honest. Like Cody's fresh off of saying that, my guy. Like you could say something else.
Right.
So I gave him the pass on that because I don't know the time frame of that when that came out.
2 years ago.
Yeah, that's Cody. That's fresh off of Cody saying that. Okay. That was the only thing that hit me. Now I will give them credit, and I enjoyed it because it kind of gave me the feel of how ECW used to shoot their promos for their talent. Like point. they would come from different angles. It had the structure of what we all love and know about professional wrestling, but their own modern take of it, something different, and it was unique. I just like that angle that they shot that. It reminded me of ECW. I got ECW vibes immediately from that. So I enjoyed the storytelling. I definitely enjoyed the music as well as the highlights from his high points. And I especially love the fact that they showed the tweet where he felt so disrespected. So it's one of those, it's old but new again type situations. And honestly, I wish more of these promotions would do something like that.
Yeah.
AEW, WWE, they can do something like that and it would be cool. But that's a great promo. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We kicked this off I talked about the stereotypical indie promo, right? And it wasn't.
Right.
And I don't, and you know, Adrian, you said I wish the promotions would do more of this, and I don't know if that's the promotion doing that or if that's him. And it could be either way. But to your point, spend a little bit of time. And in today's world, it's not that hard. I mean, you could create these things with iMovie and just click, 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 or you know, there's so many different applications out there that are much more intricate than iMovie, but it doesn't take that long just to put a little effort in there. And that to me also separates him apart from a lot of others I see.
This guy's coming up. I know he was sidelined with some injuries here and there, and he's evolved even personally. I'll let you read into his personal story there, but he went through a phase where he's more that anime influence, like big anime influence. I mean, almost defines the character. The whole idea of the protagonist of pro wrestling, that's very anime. So there's these elements there that are always they you see that, like you said, there's some lack of polish there, but by design, this is auto produced. It's for a promo, but it's one of those things where they probably asked all the wrestlers, hey, put together something for this upcoming show, and he could have done a mirror selfie, this Saturday night, that type of deal. But you see how much investment he has, right? He sets up that backstory. You don't need to know where he's from, who he is. He tells you in 2 minutes, everything you need to know about him. And that's what I really admire about this guy, about Kid Bandit, because he's constantly reinventing and utilizing the internet. Because if you follow his social media presence, Kid Bandit Pro on the socials, he's puts up content, or it did at one point where it was pretty consistent, but you get a very clear idea of what this pro wrestler is going for the most part, and how much they've changed. So really cool to see the development. I'm really glad to see that you enjoyed some of the same thoughts that I saw clearly through him.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Or through them, sorry.
Cool. So I guess it's my turn.
Yeah. Man.
So the one I brought to you is a guy here in the Georgia area, a young guy. This is a very current promo that I'm giving to you, probably within the last 2 months, maybe.
Nice.
And he's really come into his own. I've known him for a couple years, and just to see his growth as a character, dude, he can do comedy, he can do serious, but he's really grown into his character. A couple of things I like about him from an independent standpoint, he does pay attention to his character. He pays attention to his gear. He's got good gear. He's got everything, right? It's just all these little things that a lot of people just don't put that effort into, and he does. And he wrestles all over the place and always has a good match, but he also gets the entertainment aspect, which is really cool. So I'm going to set this promo up a little bit. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Landmark Arena, which was here in Cornelia, Georgia for years. Is now shut down. So a little history about that. That's where NWA Wildside was, NWA Anarchy. People who've come through there. AJ Styles was a fixture in that building. Xavier Woods, fixture in that building. FTR, individually. Everybody, I'm telling you, everybody's gone through there. You'd be surprised at the people who've gone through there. And it got closed down last year. Shall we say it was probably not the safest building to be in after a certain amount of time. But a lot of people have a soft spot in their heart for this building. This building housed multiple wrestling events every single week. But for a long time, that's all they had. They had a ring in there, like probably 3 to 6 rows of seats, depending on which corner it was. Production studio in there, everything. So if you ever go back, they had a few years ago, they were celebrating the Landmark or whatever, and AJ actually showed up while he was with WWE. Like everybody was sending in videos. You had videos from FTR, you had videos from Xavier Woods, you had videos from I think Kofi, I think Miz even went through there because a lot of the Deep South guys had gone through there. A bunch of different people sending in videos, and then they show this video of AJ, and then the video just kind of. And then his music hit, and he came out, man. The place lost their minds. And now you're only sitting there like maybe 200 people. It can't hold that many more, right? And it's like people lose their minds. And it's like that's just really cool that he had that type of respect for this building. So I say that to say, so this guy's name is Hunter James, Hollywood Hunter James.
Nice.
He is wrestling Jacob Ashworth, sorry. Jacob, who is I think the last Anarchy champion, I believe, or he was an Anarchy champion. And he's kind of called himself the king of Landmark or whatever. But so there's a tie-in here.
It was supposed to be impossible for Hunter James to defeat Nick Halen for the Landmark Arena Heritage Championship on Christmas night last year. I walked out as champion. It was supposed to be impossible to defeat Judas and become the youngest Southern Fried Heavyweight Champion. I did that too. So what makes it so special? Why do you think you're so unstoppable? Why do you think it's impossible for you to walk across Hollywood Boulevard? To be another star on my walk of fame. Just another stepping stone for Hunter James. Hell, 26 Anarchies, and I main evented the last 13 of them, and honestly, I could have been the king of the Landmark Arena, but I like this scenario a little better because what happens when I take the Infinity Stone away from the king of the Landmark Arena? What happens when I take the crown away? What happens when I take the Landmark Arena Heritage Championship out of your hands and you have no kingdom to run back to, Jacob? The Landmark Arena is gone. I'm taking this championship for my personal collection so no one else can have it because it should be on my waist, in my trophy case. So as usual, when we show up from Monroe, Georgia, I'm just going to be another quarterback in the pocket, waiting for a receiver to throw his hands up, and I'm going to toss a dime every single time, and I'm walking out Landmark Arena Heritage Champion. And this has been Hunter James, coming to you live from the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And Jacob, shine that belt up for me and kiss it goodbye, because Hollywood has arrived.
Nice.
Man, I'm kind of speechless. That was really good.
Looks like a star, man.
Yeah. Is he signed anywhere yet, or not yet?
No. He's an independent dude, man. He's all around. He's one of the hottest stars around though right now.
He's got it, man. Yeah.
Adelie, I'm gonna come to you first. What do you think?
I'm blown away. Honestly, I'm like just the production value, like the attention to detail. Like, we were just talking about it, prior about using existing media, and that piece that sold me really early was all those posters just zooming in at you, right? And in the video, you see them. He's referencing all the old shows that he's been a part of, and it instantly gives him credibility, right? And all this cockiness that comes afterward, it's warranted, and total heelish promo for sure, but believable. I truly believe that he's going to get that title. And then this reverence, right? Towards reverence, and also using it as an insult. Hey, Landmark is gone. This is the championship. This is not Old Glory. This is new blood coming in. So it makes him really believable, and the polish where he doesn't move too much. He doesn't shift. It's all his head moving, and engaging with the camera, engaging with the audience. And just as I was about to ask you when we were about to close this, I was going to ask you, wait, what was his name again? Because it's a fairly generic name, right? And he reestablishes his name, and he tells you who he is one last time in case you forgot. So it was impressive to see, just not from just for the production, but just the content of how he's developing and sells you on who he is.
Definitely. My first impression, the guy looks like a star. Like his energy that he's giving off, his demeanor, he's giving you the character that you want to go see. And that's the job. That's the job of a promo, to talk them in the building, especially in the independent wrestling wrestling industry. Like we don't know you. 9 times out of 10, we don't know you. But if you post that online, you may catch one of these casual fans. You may catch someone who's never been to a show. And they're like, you know what? That guy looks interesting, or that guy looks cool, or hey, I want to see that guy get his ass kicked. Because depending on the audience, the viewing audience, that promo could have come off cool, but it could have also come off as being cocky. You just took a shot at one of the staples, and I want to see our champion kick your ass. That's and mission accomplished for him. So salute to him. I did think his posture in the promo was kind of weird, but I kind of liked it also. if I'm gonna nitpick anything, but I love it. Like you said, Greg, you could tell that he's invested in himself when it comes to how his gear looks. He like I said, he looks like a star, man. Like if you would have told me, hey, this dude has been on let's say AEW or something, I would say, all right, cool. Like I can believe it. He's believable. So that's a great choice, man.
Very cool. Thank you. Yeah, he the one critique I would have had for it when I first watched it was, man, where are you standing? But he addressed it. Because he addressed it, man. And I'm like, dude, that was so perfect, because he's talking Hollywood. I'm like, but you like it the Cracker Barrel. And but he says, coming to you from the Outer Banks of, and I was like, you got it, right? You tied it in. But I agree with what you guys said. It was like when you talked about the Hollywood, stars and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, just the little stuff.
That's good
And
branding.
as soon as he transitioned into talking about himself, it showed the Hollywood sign. I was like, just this effort he put in, and you can see it, right? I'll tell you one thing about him. And I was at a Halloween show that he was at, and this one promotion, they're very, very family friendly, and he doesn't wrestle there very often. But on Halloween, a lot of the wrestlers dress up for Halloween. So, like, I know a tag team that did the Road Warriors a couple years ago. Now they're not trying to be the Road Warriors, but it's legit.
Right.
Okay, that's the Rock and Roll Express, and everybody has fun with it, right? He dressed up as Mr. Perfect, and his manager did the Bobby the Brain thing. He had the gum. He did the towel. But he invested in that.
That's
like
cool.
He showed up with a very clean white towel. He had a singlet. I think it was more like the orange singlet that Perfect used to wear sometimes.
Nice.
He had that. He had a wig. I mean, he had everything, dude. And I'm like, This dude gets it. I mean, he just freaking gets it, and it's like, man, I truly believe he's gonna make it somewhere. He really will.
I wouldn't doubt it. I'm sold.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that one. I think we brought some good ones today. I really do. I think we brought some gritty ones. Adrian with murder. And the one thing, let me go back to his for a second. We just talked about Hunter and how he produced that one, and whereas Murders wasn't, but Murders also fits his character.
Definitely.
Murders is not going to be polished, right? I mean, if he produces something, it's going to be ECW style. It's going to be more that, with the fence or something like that. But it fits what he's going to do. His character is more like, man, I don't have time for this. Let me record this and I'm going to send it to you.
Right.
So I think that fits him. Whereas this Hollywood one, that fits him. I think that's key, right? These guys got to pay attention. What is my character? What am I trying to portray?
Yeah. Great points. Great point. Because Murda One definitely gives you the vibe of, what did this dude just say on Twitter? Man, screw it. Let me go live, right? Let me go live right now.
Yep.
So let me go ahead and let you know I'm pulling up. Like that's the energy. That's what time Murder is on for sure.
Mm-hmm. For sure. All right, so now, of course, now we got to fall into that part of our show where we bring the promo that's not wrestling related, because we know we're surrounded by promos each and every day, whether it's at the Starbucks, or we hear the Karen at the McDonald's, or you see something crazy down the street, right? Or I can tell you, one day we're going to cut our own promos, because I've cut plenty of promos on my kids. So I promise you, it may not be wrestling related, but there have been some good promos. And I took my kid promos are from Jake the Snake. Keep it real calm and simple, and walk away with them going, oh, he may kill me. So I know, Adrian, you're the one bringing the promo this week of the non-wrestling related one. So what do you got?
Okay, so a little background on this one. Growing up as a kid, my grandfather used to pick me and my little brother and little sister up from school every day. And it was tradition. Part of the tradition, he would pick us up. He would take us to his house. He would have already made spaghetti. And he would tell us to do our homework while he's finishing things up. And while he was finishing things, on the TV was a landmark of 90s television, and that was the Jerry Springer Show.
Oh,
so,
man.
Which I will tell everyone is full of promos. It may be some white trash promos. It may be some bad stereotypes on all accounts, but it's promos nonetheless. So the promo that I brought for you guys, and this guy can come off as a pro wrestler just based off of his name. His name is Minister Marcus. And basically, Marcus has multiple women he's dating at the same time. And his reason for that, once again, he's a minister. His reason for that is pretty interesting.
Please meet Marcus. He says the only way he can get what he wants is to pay for it. Well, our show is free. So what's going on?
Well, Jerry, I had a rough life. I've been through some things in my life, been locked down, I once played.
What is
Those are always petty.
It's locked down, different from being locked up.
You're all in a cage. You're still in the cage. You're still in the cage.
Okay.
But, Jerry, I played crazy one time just to get to a psych ward so I can get some good AC, because in Texas, it's so hot, man. You'll die in those cells.
So you're telling me the people in Texas really aren't crazy. They're just pretending to be so they get air conditioning?
Yeah, when you're in prison.
Yeah.
But, Jerry, I got out. I wanted, something different, I tried to change my life, and I got into church and stuff when I got out.
Okay.
Became a minister.
You're a minister?
Yes, sir.
Is your church air conditioned? Well, but is it like you on the computer, you go to a website and you become a minister?
No, sir. You got to be called.
Oh, you were called?
Yeah. Well,
were you home? Did God text you?
Not really. But Jerry, I met this female at church, you know.
Yes.
And I thought a church girl would probably be different than any other girl in the streets, you know.
Yeah.
So I took a different approach.
So wait, you're the minister in this church?
Yeah, I was.
Keyword
was.
Okay, so people would come to church on Sunday mornings. You'd be up there, and while you're praying and leading the prayers and giving your sermons, you look out there and you see a lady that you go.
No, it wasn't nothing like that. It's just that some days I do preach, some Sundays, you know,
see.
but other times I'm just like sitting up front.
I see. Okay. So you
But well, I did meet her in church, and I thought she was going to be different, you know, because she was a church going girl. And, you know, I had sex with this girl, man, and she done went ballistic.
Yeah.
Why? She said the ropes were too tight, or what? What do you mean you had?
Twice, Jerry, and she already talking about getting married.
Oh, I see.
I'm
So
not trying to.
She wasn't complaining.
No, she wasn't complaining, but she was pressuring me to marry her. You know, I mean, I know
You're a
God
minister.
I know God wants to get
someone
married
outside of marriage.
I'm not ready to get married yet.
You're not ready to be a minister.
I know.
Fast forward, the girl comes out, and basically, I was trying to get to Minister Marcus' reason. He said that God said it was cool if he does this, if he has multiple women. So, I want to know you all's immediate thoughts. Greg, let's go with you first, man.
I don't know what my immediate thoughts were. I'm just sitting there going, "This dude's just a BSer from the get."
For sure.
And I couldn't believe anything that was coming out of his mouth. But I was curious. He had me waiting for more. I'm not gonna lie. He had me waiting to see. I'm being familiar with the show. I'm just curious what she was gonna look like coming out. Right? I was just like, what are we gonna get?
I'll shoot you the link. Links in the description, listeners.
And then he's just like, well, Jerry, I did it twice, and then this, and then she actually want to get married. I'm like, bro, like, I don't know I picked her up at church. She's supposed to be a good church girl, and all of a sudden I turned her out, and now she wants to be married. Imagine that. So I don't even know what to think. I just think he's just I don't know, just a BSer.
I'll leave, man.
You're too kind, Greg. You're too kind.
Right. Yeah, he did a good job, Greg.
Within the context of the show, because look, I'm of a certain generation that I enjoyed Springer for what it was. Because
for sure,
it's almost like it is pro wrestling. I mean, it truly is in its purest form. You're watching this show that you're everything. You know, I'm not a wrestler, but everything's a work in this show. Come on, like by design, and it's funny because even going in that and being part of an audience who is in on the joke, right? They're in on the structure of the joke. When he says I'm a minister, they just can't believe it. They're like, no, you're not. Like, wait a minute. You had us going for like a half second that maybe you were. So, and he's playing within the structure of the show where he's you know, Jerry's having a good time. Jerry doesn't cross the threshold onto the stage very often. He sticks with the crowd, but he does that. You know, he's compelled to wait a minute. They probably gave us some loose guidelines, and he's like, no, I'm going to engage with Jerry. I'm going to give him something to work with here. So purely from the construct of the show, I think it's funny that it seemed like he was a fan. That's all I'm seeing.
Now, what drew me to this as a promo per se is a few things. Number one, his personality. The guy's personality, even though he's very unpolished in the sense of being on television or anything like that, he had a story to tell. He's giving you his background. You know, I was locked up, unfortunately, and I had to act crazy so I could get some AC. Like that's funny. That was funny. That was a funny line. And also another point to bring out is that Jerry did a great job of being that B Mike, like carrying him through, reminding you kind of a Mean Gene, if we're going to make a comparison, where Mean Gene would have his little joke here and there, but let you cook. And that's what that's the way I felt. That's how that promo came about. But it's a hot mess. Jerry Springer was a hot mess. trash 90s television
to the utmost.
I don't know why my grandfather had us watching it. he was locked in with that, man. He was locked in.
What's so funny is like now when I watch it, because I've seen Jerry Springer with so many other interviews at the time, and he was a total sellout, and he'd tell you he was a total sellout.
Yeah,
definitely.
If you go early Jerry Springer shows, it was all serious and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
and it became trash TV. He's a highly intelligent dude,
Yeah,
a former mayor of Cincinnati.
Yep.
And he goes, I would rather be doing politics, but this pays the bills. So I was sitting there watching him, and there's like a piece of, if you really watch him, he's sitting there like asking these questions, but almost like, I can't believe I'm doing this shit. Like he's just like, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
But that check has a lot of zeros on it, and I'm gonna
He's
keep
dying
doing this crap.
But
yes, sir.
Definitely. But that was the non-wrestling promo that I had for you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, and you know, Adelie, you mentioned it is wrestling. Like that was all a work.
Definitely.
If you go back, and I think you can Google this, pro wrestlers that were on Springer, you'll see a bunch of independent dudes.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Who were on there? Who were playing characters?
Wow, really?
I think Jimmy Yang was on there at one point. I think Jimmy Rave was on there at one point. I'm almost positive.
Was Rave on there? Wow.
Yeah, I think so. I'm almost positive Jimmy Yang was on there. I know there's a couple of guys from Georgia that were on there.
Now I'm gonna go down that rabbit hole. Wow.
Oh yeah.
It's like
that's cool.
And they're playing some crazy stuff, man. It's just like, what the world? You think you could get away with that today?
No. Maybe in a different format. Online. It would have to be online. It wouldn't network television wouldn't touch that. I don't think.
No, I mean like even down to the fact of how fake it was.
Online. Yeah. Social media is fake as hell. These influencers. So true. It would go right in line online for sure.
True. Yeah. You know what we could do? We could put one together and put Keith Lee and these other guys, these food critics, and have them confront the owners of the restaurants, and we'd have our conflict right there.
Facts.
Oh man.
Oh man. All right. That was good, man. So hopefully everybody enjoyed our show today about independent wrestlers. Hey, tag us on some other videos. Like if you guys have some independent wrestling promos you want us to look at, tag us.
Yeah.
We'll pop them out here. We'll go review them. If you have other promos you want us to have, send them to us. We'd love to sit down and kind of just grab some of the ones from your local independents or from, global different wrestling organizations that you're like, hey, no, check this one out, or this one was crazy. Send them over to us and we'll do that.
Definitely.
So thank you guys for joining us this week. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. All you guys already know what you need to do. So we appreciate it. For Adelie, for Adrian, we will see you next time right here on Talk 'em Into the Building.